Yay. We're here. We're here. Okay. I'm sure Beth will be joining us in a moment. So, but thank you, Mary. So we are up and running. This is the Optimize Your Life show. We are on the air. We're just waiting for our speaker, Beth Wyman, who is a registered nutritionist. And she always has such really great down to earth health and
There
wellness
we go.
information.
Oh.
There's Beth. Good morning or afternoon. Actually, we're in the Northeast. It's afternoon already.
Yes.
But Mary was able to get us up and running this morning. So, so hello. You're back home. You.
I
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, I just gave you a short little intro.
am. Oh, good. Oh, well, it's only 12:01. We're doing great.
Yes, 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 we are. But thanks to Mary. So, so welcome. And this is Nutrition Matters with Beth Wyman. And Beth, you, for at least from the weather update that they gave us, it looks like you're getting a lot of snow.
A lot.
Oh,
Well, I mean, measurably. I'm not sure what it's going to turn into, but there was certainly a good amount this morning. But the roads were great, but now there's all these like snow squalls, right?
yes.
So driving back home from Albany, I was giving a presentation this morning. There it got really dark, and all of a sudden there was all this snow, and I'm like, oh, well. There's no school today for Lunar New Year, so it's not like I'm
Oh,
worried about the
really?
kids. So
I've
they're
never
already
heard
planning
of
to
it.
go sledding with Nana and Grandpa
Oh,
and all that. So
wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah, I guess we're going to get some flurries. And then Friday is going to be 40 degrees. And then Saturday, 21. So we are going to lose 20 degrees overnight. Don't you love it? So, but yeah, again, like our roads are all fine. Our driveway isn't, but I'm not worrying about that. But we put it in four-wheel drive and come out of our driveway. But so yes, I looked on the weather report, and you're getting a lot more snow than Buffalo. We're getting it, and a lot of times with our we hear about Buffalo, but really it's the ski resorts south of here that are Beth? Getting. Yes, it is. Hi, Beth. We're live on the. No, I'm glad we're on. I'm glad you're on the air. Appreciate it. Just wanted a happy new year. I want you to know we are really happy and continue to look forward to a great new year.
absolutely. Yeah. So I figured I would talk about what I just did a presentation on today.
Perfect.
Specifically, this was a presentation for first responders, specifically police officers, actually, through the Department of Criminal Justice Services for New York State. So it's pretty cool. It was a webinar, so it's interesting to know that you're talking to all the kind of like the podcast. I know I'm
Yes.
talking to all these people, can't see them, have no idea who they are.
Interesting.
Yeah. And same thing, it was live, so they couldn't like unmute themselves and ask questions, but they could type, right? Kind of like this one, how it
That's
has
it.
the
Yes.
picture. Yeah. So it was pretty cool. We did question and answer at the end as well. But talking about a lot of what we talk about here, right? We talked about small habits and small changes making eventual big impact and big change, and meeting yourself where you are. So any kind of like making the best decision with the foods you have in the moment. And we talked about like heart healthy eating specifically, right? And looking at low sodium, low saturated fat, and getting enough fiber, and getting in a little bit of physical activity. Because while I was researching to do this, I did not realize that police officers are actually at a higher not they're at a higher risk for um, sudden cardiac death. They typically
Mm.
have heart attacks earlier than the general population by about 20 years. And their life expectancy is shorter by about 20 years
Wow.
than the
Because
average
of the
person.
stress?
Some of it in the research I was reading, some of it is stress, some of it is just the danger of the position. Some of it is just not treating your body well. So things like not sleeping enough. If you're somebody who's like on a desk job or in a car all day, that's sedentary. So that has increased risk factors with it. Um, so there's a bunch of different things that play into it, but some of them you can either sort of mitigate the risk through healthy eating or remove the risk through healthy eating. So we talked about um, the plate method because that's a really great way to meet yourself where you are and get in basically like doing the best with what you have, right? And figuring out, okay, how do I make half of my plate fruits and veggies, a quarter protein, a quarter starch, and using that starch to get in some more fiber with whole grains. And
Mm.
really just keeping it simple. Um, a lot of it usually also has to do with like meal planning and meal prepping and knowing that um, basically what to do when it all falls apart, right? So, with busy schedules, and this goes for anyone with a busy schedule, you may have the best intentions, but if things go a little bit sideways, it's going to ruin all of it. And you need to know, okay, what can I do to still stay on track, even though I'm not having the meal I planned to have? Where can I stop and get something that's still going to meet my needs instead of just like completely giving up and going off the rails, right? And making a decision that's really not in your best interest long term. So it's um and then we talked about stress eating, which I know we've done episodes on here
Mhm.
a while back about stress eating too, and that might be worth doing an entire episode on again. Um but really like knowing recognizing that yeah, sugar does make you feel better in the moment. Just not long term. And and doing the hard work of identifying that okay, yeah, I'm reaching for that candy because I'm stressed out and pivoting to do something else to actually take care of that stress. Um and then the question always comes up like, well, what should I eat if I'm stressed? And it's like that's not how it works. Right? There's no food that's going to remove your stress. There are studies that healthier gut microbiome, so the good bacteria that live in your intestines, if they're healthier, it's been shown that you can be more stress resilient, so just handle stress better, and you can have a healthy gut microbiome by eating enough fiber. So back to that plate method of getting in enough fruits and vegetables and whole grains, like it all circles back. Um, but again, that's only stress resiliency. It's not going to make you feel better after a long day, after a hard day. Um, there's no food that's going to do that. And that becomes the hard part, right? For
Yeah.
especially for somebody that goes to food for comfort, it's short lived and it's not truly taking care of the issue. Um, so there's uh,
Even though the Snickers commercials say that, you can.
right. Snickers may have you believe otherwise, and so and that is because it's hungry, grab a Snickers, right? Um, the other reason sometimes that we reach for candy is because we're hungry and looking for like quick, easy calories, right? Quick, easy energy. And so from a survival standpoint, candy satisfies that need. It's quick, easy energy. And this is why like fruit chews and things that, or even like fruit snacks are great mid-marathon when you need quick, easy energy. Not great as part of your lunch.
Mm.
It's everything's got a time and a place. And there's so many things out there that are just, they're not for daily use, I guess. Um, so it's, yeah, it's things to keep in mind, and it's things that are applicable to anyone that has a really busy lifestyle. And really, a heart healthy diet is good for just about everybody. Um, I think I've mentioned on here before that I actually need extra salt, but again, this is something that I've discussed with my doctor, and we know why and what's going on, and that for me, these heart healthy diets, right, are all low salt. That would not work for me, because I need more. Um, right, low salt is usually to help keep your blood pressure down. I need to keep mine, well, normal, right? The goal is always to get it to normal, but I run very low, so
Mm.
I need more. Um, it's just different.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the interesting part, is that every body is different. And so, um, surprisingly, I only had one person that really asked a super specific question during the question and answer where I was like, this is too individualized.
Mm.
Um, because everyone needs something a little bit different for whatever reason. Maybe just their meal timing is off from um, like a generally accepted standard, or their food preferences are different, or whatever. They have like kidney disease and need to watch out for that, or they have diabetes, or they have all kinds of other different things. And so, yeah, I only had one question that was too specific where I'm like, I'm not your dietitian. You're not my patient. I can't answer that for you. Like, you have to ask your own dietitian.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because there's not, I wasn't going to go into like their medical history, and then there's
Right.
no
That
consent
kind
to
of,
treat
yeah.
paperwork that's been signed. Like, there's a whole legal side of it that people don't think of sometimes in terms of being a provider.
Right.
Because truthfully, I feel like sometimes dietitians aren't looked at like healthcare providers, even though we are.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I had somebody yesterday that said like, "Oh, well, we need more actual healthcare providers." And I was like, "Well, what do you think I am?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's one of those like, "What do you mean by that?"
In fact, I meet with my dietitian. I got the confirmation um, email today that I see once a month. The dietitian. Um,
Oh, great.
that yes, and we do it by Zoom, which is really nice. So we can see each other, but we don't have to travel to get there.
Yeah, and that's how I did all of my clients, was through Zoom. It's so much easier, right? Because you don't have to worry about travel, or, days like today where the weather's not great.
Hmm.
You don't have to worry about people canceling on you because nobody's, you just pop on your phone or a tablet or the computer and jump right in.
Yeah. Our first meeting was face to face, but after that, you know, it's we've used Zoom for even for medical things. Talking
Yep.
to a dermatologist. Look at this. What is this? You know.
It's actually, um, I remember I had a question about my son's tooth, and the dentist had me just send over a picture and then called me. so they didn't have like Zoom capabilities, but she was like, you don't need to come in. Just send me a picture and then I'll give you a call. So really, it's great to be able to utilize the technology that we have to
Mhm.
support healthcare and limit, the time has become so precious. Um, and especially with healthcare providers really being crunched for how many people they can see in a day. Um, Being able to just answer a message and leave an appointment spot open for somebody who really needs to physically go in can be helpful.
Mhm.
Or like when my daughter had chicken pox, which somehow
Mm.
she got, I
Mm.
don't know. Um, it was a virtual visit because they're like, we actually don't want you to come into the office because it's so highly contagious
Mhm.
that they were like, no, you need to do a virtual visit instead so that you can essentially keep everybody else safe and reduce the risk of spreading it. They're like, if you come in, we then have to quarantine that room and no one else can use that room until it can be fully bleached down or something. They had to like
Mm.
use a special cleaner
Mm.
and stuff. And I was like, all right, well, I don't care. I just need you to look at it and tell me what it
Yeah.
is.
Mm.
That's fine. So it's, yeah, I think I'm hoping that like virtual health is really here to stay because it's just expanded access and thinking about people that would normally have to drive like say 40 minutes to the doctor, right?
Mhm.
Now don't have to worry about that. I
Yeah,
feel like I got way off topic.
telemedicine, it just
Yep.
it it just in not in every case, but in a lot of cases, it just makes sense. We have used it a number of times.
Um, I feel like I got way off track from like stress
Oh,
eating.
sorry.
And I'm trying to
What
think of
what
how we
type
got
of
here to see if I needed to
what
cover anything else before I jumped back into that.
what type of questions did
Oh yeah.
the officers have?
Um, there were a lot of questions on on fad diets, right? On
Mhm.
fasting specifically.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not a big fan of, I guess there's a thing out right now of like doing a 72-hour fast. That
Mm.
does not sound like a good idea.
No.
It's and I've seen things where people are doing like water fasts essentially where they just drink water, which I'm glad that you're still hydrating. That's a really good step in the right direction, but there's no reason to deny yourself food for that long. I know that for religious purposes sometimes people do it and that's different, but if you're just looking at it from a health perspective, you there's no reason to be doing that. And even with fasting for religious reasons, there are all kinds of health exceptions
Mhm.
as to
Mhm.
people that should not be doing it according to the actual religious guidelines. So there's, everything needs to be taken into consideration.
If
So
you
there were
fast
questions.
too much,
Go.
doesn't your body think, "Oh, I better store that fat because I may need it later?" Because, I mean, you're not I don't think you're doing your body any help. It's just
Yeah, it's not helpful. So what happens is your body will start to yes, you will burn extra fat because that's all your body has for energy at that point. However, your body's whole goal is to survive. And
Mhm.
so if it knows it's not getting food, which it's going to figure out pretty quickly, it starts to slow down and your metabolism slows down and gets very conservative. And some people may find that they like get really tired. And that's your body trying to slow itself down and conserve energy. So you're not burning what you think you're burning. And then on top of that, you're setting yourself up for failure long term Because now when you start to eat again, your body's like, oh God, finally, food, let me store this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So sticking with a pattern of regular intake. So what I normally suggest is like within an hour of waking up, and then every 4 hours after that, that's going to actually get you in a good pattern. Your body knows when food is coming, and so you burn through it appropriately, and avoids all the complications that can come with like that intermittent fasting, or which I feel like is just a fancy word for skipping breakfast. um, or even any kind of like yo-yo dieting, which has been a term that floats around for a while, where you go on a strict diet and then off, and then on another strict diet and then off. It's not working with the natural rhythm of your body, to produce like long lasting results.
I can definitely see that.
It's yeah. So it's we tend to look for easy, quick fixes to things, and this isn't an easy, quick fix. This is changing how you treat your body long term. Um, it's changing your lifestyle. It's not a race to a certain goal. Um, And I think that that's the part that gets lost sometimes, is that we think, oh, well, I just need to do this until whatever, until my blood sugars are under control, or I only need to do it until I hit a certain weight, or my cholesterol hits a certain number. It's like, no, you got to keep doing it even after that. You have to keep doing it to stay there. So seeing it as just a change forever, um, makes you more likely to stick with it, makes you a little bit more realistic in terms of what you're actually capable of doing. Uh, so, one of the big examples that came up today was meal planning. And it's like meal planning is all well and good, but if you know you're not going to eat it by day 3, you're just wasting food. Um, and that some people do better, like packing up leftovers from dinner the night before and using that for lunch, which is kind of like meal planning. You're planning ahead for what to eat. Um, some people don't have the like time to cook for an entire week all at once on one day, so that would make it an unrealistic expectation. Or if you are somebody that eats out all the time and then suddenly is like, oh, I'm going to cook all my food, again, you're setting an unrealistic expectation, right? Do you actually know how to cook? Like there might be a learning curve involved. Do you have all the equipment that you need, right? Do you actually have pots and pans? So there's a lot that goes into it that that people don't necessarily think about, or they want the end result, right? It's that focus on getting the end result instead of the process that's involved,
Right.
and adopting like a long-term process change, more or less. Other questions that came up were about, well, there's another one about meal timing, and asking like, okay, well, should I work out and then eat, or should I eat and then work out? And I would never want to see somebody sacrifice exercise because they couldn't do it at the quote unquote right time of day. And this goes back to like meeting yourself where you are. It's like there is benefit to working out and then having your meal, because you can immediately use those foods for repairing and rebuilding. But at the end of the day, it's just important to fit all things into your day wherever your schedule allows. And there were a lot of questions about supplements.
Mm.
So, um, I don't give out specific supplement recommendations. I'm sure that you've noticed and other listeners have noticed, like we might talk about them, but I'm never like, oh, this one's good for this or whatever, because every body is different. Um, my recommendations during the presentation were, you need to check with one, your pharmacist for medication interactions, and two, with your dietitian or with your primary care doctor to see if there's any essentially like health condition interactions. There's certain supplements that aren't good for certain health conditions. So I know, like, specifically, um, it's not recommended to use a pre workout supplement or like certain types of pre workout supplements if you have a thyroid condition, right? And that's stuff that you need to know before you go pick anything out. Somebody asked about creatine specifically. I was like, well, you need to make sure that, you know, that your kidneys and your liver are healthy enough for that. And it depends on what your particular goals are too, if that's going to be the right supplement for you. Like, it's too specific to answer in a presentation to such a
Right.
broad audience. Um, what else did they ask about? Oh, like, are there certain foods that will make my stress go away or make my anxiety better? And I was like, no, it's not a thing. Um, I did also talk about like antioxidant powders and things like that, and that there are studies that it's a lot, you get more benefit out of eating the whole food, that you get actually more antioxidant type activity, right? So limiting and reducing free radicals in your body by eating the whole fruit or the whole vegetable instead of using a powder. It's something about just having the variety that's within that fruit or vegetable. It's all made to work together in that
Mhm.
package. And so eating it in the package in which it was created, so like a tomato, a cherry, whatever, is going to be more beneficial than using the like powder format or supplement pill format of that food. Um, what else do we talk about? We did supplements, fasting, we did meal timing and spacing, where to stop for food. And actually, somebody brought up a great example that I didn't use in the presentation. So the ones I used were stopping at like a grocery store with a mini mart type thing, a grocery store, um, different types of fast food places. So, like Mexican type burrito bowl places versus burger joints and things like that. And what somebody put in the chat that I didn't think of and is such a good example is a diner. If you can either order takeout or have time to go actually sit at the diner, you can usually get exactly what you need, right? In
Mhm.
terms of half your plate fruits and veggies, a quarter protein, and a quarter starch. They usually have something that meets that criteria. Um, and are typically pretty quick with service, so you're not there for longer than your meal break.
Right.
Um, it's also somewhere where you can get breakfast, so you could get like eggs and toast or something any time of day. So that's a cool one that for the future I'll be adding into the presentation, because their diners are a great place to go. The the sort of conundrum, right? Because especially the population I was talking to with police officers, they may need to stop for food, but because they are much more likely to have um, cardiovascular risks, so potentially some hypertension, high blood pressure, right? I would want them to be eating a low sodium diet, but most takeout foods and restaurants and things are high salt. And so how do you balance that? What comes first? And it comes back to doing the best you can with what you have. And so um, trying to go for that plate setup, only eating until you're full. And if you know that it's a really salty dish, um, just making sure that the rest of your day is very low sodium or low salt, because at the end of the day, it's all about the balance of your entire day, not necessarily just one meal. Not everything works that way, but salt certainly does. That you're looking at the balance of the whole day.
Mhm.
So you can offset it by making sure everything else is very low sodium. So there's, making the, what did I call it? Making the better choice, not always like the perfect best choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of the
Uh,
options out there, this is what to try for.
right. Exactly. You're striving for low salt, higher fiber. Um, but even if you can't do it perfectly, still trying is still going to get you somewhere. And it's a lot better than just giving up and not doing anything. So it was a cool experience. I enjoyed doing it because it ties together a lot of different things that a lot of people are going through in terms of stress eating and meal planning and things, and brings it to people who work a high stress job with, um, and on different shifts too, right? And I don't
Yes.
think we've really talked about shift eating on here. So for somebody who's working like night shift, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
eating overnight. They just, that is their body's rhythm now. And the more that somebody can lean into that being their body's rhythm, and not trying to be awake during the day, and also have like a day life, if you will, as well as working at night, the better your body can adjust, the better your circadian rhythm adjusts, which is normally partially run by like exposure to sunlight, but you're not getting it at the right times if you're working night shift, so it can be really difficult. Um, but the more you can prioritize, like, okay, I still need to get X number of hours of sleep. Where does that go? And then after I sleep, I wake up, I eat with an hour of waking up. Even if that means you're eating breakfast at like 4 in the afternoon, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just about creating your own schedule that works for you, instead of relying on like what, well, I shouldn't say like what somebody else tells you to do, because essentially that's what I would be doing. Um, I guess what society tells you need to
Yeah, the
do.
norms,
Yeah,
across
the
the board
societal
norms.
norms.
Years
So,
ago, my brother worked night shift. Oh, a long time ago, but still, it just it you know once you stop, it's just and take a day job. Your whole body has to just get used to the whole rhythm of your body has to change. Um, it's not from what I just observed. It's not easy.
no, and there are some people that really thrive on it, and for whatever reason adjust really well to it. And there are some people that even if they do it for years, their body never adjusts.
Exactly.
And then it becomes especially difficult if you have a family and kids, right, who are
Hmm.
living a day shift life, and you worked a night shift, which I know there are a lot of parents that do that, right? One parent works day shift, the other one works night shift. There's always an adult home with the kids, but it's like, well, the kids are asleep when that one parent's home with them because it's nighttime, and then the other parent, yes, is home with them but also needs to sleep. And so it's a lot of like balancing competing priorities and figuring out how to make the best of it, um, and making sure that you prioritize your own health, and right, fill your cup first, um, and make sure that you can help other people. So it was, yeah. The in my research, the more research, I guess, that's being done around eating and mental health is very interesting too. That eating enough protein, which I know we've talked about on here, can
Hmm.
actually help reduce depression symptoms. It's not going to take away your depression, but it can help. It can be part of your your plan for self-care, essentially. Um, that I found interesting, which I've known and it's been talked about, but it's nice to see like solid research done on it to back up that claim. Um, and then also the stuff coming out about gut health and mental health is always really interesting to me too. And that there's such a connection between the health of our intestines and our mental health.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's something you wouldn't necessarily at first think of, but if you think about it, yeah, it could.
I mean, it's all connected,
Yeah.
but it's still it's not going to fix everything. And we kind of look for that
Quick
one
fix.
step cure,
Hmm.
and that one step cure just doesn't exist, which I always feel like such a downer when I tell people. I'm like, that's not how it works. That's not going to happen.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh, another thing that came up with supplements was like, okay, well, say we've cleared it with our doctor, we're taking a supplement. Should it be a gummy or a pill? I was like, well, it depends what it is. Like a lot of times, the gummy vitamins, it's really hard to get enough of certain vitamins into the gummy texture and keep the texture. So if it's for like multivitamin purposes, I typically recommend that people go with an actual multivitamin pill or a chewable tablet. If they can't swallow pills, going with a chewable tablet, but not a gummy form. It's getting it into that texture gets difficult.
Hmm.
But the person's question was actually specifically about B vitamins, and there's a bunch of them. So I took it and ran with it. My answer um as being like about B12. So B12 interestingly is best absorbed through the lining of your nose and mouth.
Really?
Um and
Oh.
so I was like, if you're talking about B12, there's prescription B12 nasal spray, or you can find what's called sublingual tablets, ones that melt under your tongue. And you can use those for absorbing as much as you can.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you're still gonna, if it's in your multivitamin and you swallow the multivitamin, you're still going to absorb it, which is not quite as much as what you would with the tabs that melt under your tongue. But you still get some, and B12 is one where if you take too much of it, you just pee out the extra. It's water soluble. So a lot of times multivitamins will have way more than you need in them.
Knowing that it's not going to stay in your body.
Yep.
When Ron was a child, my husband was a child, he used to have B B12 shots. He was very anemic as a child, apparently.
Yeah.
But
Yep, there is typically we think of anemia as iron deficiency, but there is a B12 anemia. Yeah. Yeah. Um and so there are B12 shots. A lot of times, so when I worked in with weight loss surgery patients, there's a high instance of B12 deficiency after surgery. And a lot of times we did the sublingual tablets or the nasal spray because there's such a low compliance with people actually coming and getting their B12 shots.
well, yeah, apparently he always hated it.
Oh, I'm
Um,
sure.
yeah, obviously he was a kid. This is years ago, so that, and I don't know if that was something that they just did in the 50s and 60s, or if it's something that continues.
Yeah, you can still get B12 shots. Um, but it's yeah, especially for correcting a deficiency, sometimes you need to do it that way because you can get more in quicker. Um, but there's less compliance long term than doing, especially like the little melt away tabs that go under your tongue.
Oh, sure. If you had a druther, it would be.
Yeah, yeah. Then there's no shop, there's no trip to the office, all that kind of stuff. Um, so those are the big Trying to think if there are any other like big follow up questions that came out of it. Those are the general themes. Um, yeah, and it's a lot of what I usually talk about with like meeting yourself where you are, making small changes, and realizing that even those small changes have such a big impact. Um, and it seems somebody wrote in the chat, it's like, so basically eat more fruits and vegetables. I'm like, if you really needed to oversimplify it, yeah. Um, and some days are that busy that you need an oversimplification. And if that's your only takeaway, cool, because then by setting up your plate that way, you'll limit how much you're eating of the starchy foods. You'll have a good portion control on that. You'll have a good portion control on your protein foods. You'll still be getting in protein at every meal. And it just spirals like a good spiral
Mm-hmm.
from the fruit and vegetable intake. So, yeah, if you need it oversimplified, that certainly works. And then if you have the bandwidth to get more specific, you certainly can. But especially with people that either have like very busy careers or just very busy lives in general, sometimes it needs to come back to some sort of one super basic thing that you can hang on to.
Yeah, I know myself. We were at the grocery store yesterday, and it's like, what I like about the grocery store, we go to, you walk into the produce section, and it's so colorful, and it's so, everything's right there. Um, in fact, for breakfast this morning, I had my Honey Nut Cheerios
Yeah.
with strawberries. I picked strawberries this time, strawberries or raspberries. Um, I should have picked up some apples, because I do like, um, to have apples. My husband actually takes his pills with applesauce,
Okay.
because he has that swallowing problem after the stroke. Um,
Right.
and so, we go through a lot of applesauce in our house. Um, but it just, I don't know, applesauce probably isn't as good as apples, eating a regular apple, but um, it's, again, it's just one. Am I wrong to think of applesauce as eating a fruit?
Oh no, it's absolutely eating a fruit. Um, and it's it's different, right, from eating the whole apple because you don't have the skin.
Right.
So it changes the fiber content a little bit. Um, but you're still very much eating fruit when you're having applesauce. Um, and then you'd want to just make sure that it's unsweetened. You can certainly use cinnamon or something if you wanted a little bit different flavor.
Yeah, no, we get the
Um,
unsweetened.
yeah, then it absolutely counts as fruit.
That's good to know.
Sure does. And it's, yeah, that the thickness of the applesauce is probably easier to swallow than trying to swallow it with water or whatever.
Right, right. Because of his condition, water
Yeah.
goes down wrong. So, um,
Yeah.
but yeah, and we kind of found, you know interesting ways too to, add bananas and oranges, and, well, we don't buy oranges as much as we buy tangerines, or the little tangelos, the little, you know and so sometimes if you want a snack, that is so perfect because it's sweet and it's right there. You can hold it in your hand, and it's just something that um, we eat a lot of.
Yeah, it's snack sized.
Yes.
And it's in some of the other work I'm doing right now. In our surveys, one of the questions is, do you think that you can eat fruit as a snack? Um, and I mean, from what we talk about, yes, you absolutely can. Um, Fruit makes a great snack. Vegetables make a great snack. Um, That's something I didn't hear come up today at all. Of like, oh, okay, well, what should I have for snacks? Um, Fruits and vegetables work. You can also think of them as like mini meals and have even like a half of a sandwich or something and make a mini meal out of it. It doesn't need to be like a pre-packaged snack food.
Mhm.
I feel like sometimes people are looking for me to say like, "Oh, this is the best chip," or "These are the best crackers to eat." And it's like it doesn't always work that way. It depends where it fits in, you know. Like cheese and crackers is a great snack, and then you can get into like, okay, well, you could pick a higher fiber cracker. Or maybe you really hate high fiber crackers and you're going to get your fiber somewhere else that day. So it's okay that you're choosing ones that you enjoy eating. There's got to be some enjoyment to it. It's not. Oh, that was one of the other questions too. Was okay, if I don't eat any fruits and vegetables at all, what do you recommend? And I had to be so kind because I wanted to be, you're an adult. Please figure it out. But I didn't say that. What I said was, find ones that you can tolerate. No one's asking you to like them. Um, Find a couple you can tolerate and eat those.
My hairdresser will not eat vegetables. She won't even have a salad. I just don't know how, it's like you don't like tomatoes. You'll eat pizza that has tomato sauce, but you won't eat a tomato or a slice of tomato. And we go round and round, and it's just so, to me, it's just so funny. But it's like, wow. And it's
I
it's
just
just, how can you say you don't like any vegetable? When we got married, the only vegetable Ron would ever eat, was corn. And so, but of course, we've been married 51 years. He's quite expanded his palate, let's put it that way. Um, so he eats, just about everything. But it's just funny, with somebody saying, "No, I don't eat that at all." Well, you know, try something different. I don't know.
try one where you're not going to gag while you're eating it. Like you don't. No, you're right. It's not fried chicken. It's not a steak. It's not cake. It is, whatever, broccoli, but like get it down.
It's funny. Now here, you were talking to police officers. They didn't bring up donuts. That was
Surprisingly, no. No one interestingly, actually, now that you say that, no one brought up like cakes, cookies, candy, pastries, sweets, any of that. Right? I talked about candy as my example for stress eating, um, but no one brought up any of that stuff.
Oh, that's funny. See, so it is just a, oh, what's the word? Um Symbolic. It's not really real that, that they hang out in donut shops all the time.
It's I've always wondered how much that's true. Or if it's just like, is it just that the coffee shop is a central location that they
Yes,
can all meet on their break? Like, versus it being a donut thing.
it could just be the coffee too. Um,
Yeah, and that is something that we that I touched on as well was hydration. Um, and one of the first signs of dehydration is like feeling tired and kind of foggy. And so having a glass of water before you go for that extra cup of coffee, um, it's not going to hurt anything to take that pause and drink some water. If you're still tired and really need the coffee, then go for it. Have the other cup. But a lot of times it's dehydration. It's not a need
mm,
for a stimulant.
mm.
Um, and no, there's something else I was going to say about that. No, I don't remember. Maybe I need more coffee. Well, I've
Um,
been getting up earlier and trying to go to bed earlier, but like last night I definitely did not go to bed earlier, but I still got up earlier today.
Yes.
So it's only been like 2 days of trying to change my schedule, so it's a little bit wonky right now. Um but it's I'm finding that personally I just do really well getting up and doing things in the morning.
We got kind of in the habit, which is a bad habit, of, well, I got in the bad habit of staying up late. I'd be working on a project or doing something. I'm not a big TV watcher, but I'm on my computer listening to audiobooks and doing something in my craft room. But then I realize, oh, it's 11 o'clock at night, and I go out to the rest of the house out of my little room and start cleaning. I get like this burst of energy, and then all of a sudden it's like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh no.
It's like, because for years, obviously, I retired at 70. For years, I had to be up at 6:30, 6:30 every morning, drive downtown, be there by 8. One place I worked, I started at 7:30 in the morning. So, um, I was always getting up early, and so I've it's been a little time breaking that habit of making sure I'm in bed by at least 11:30 instead of 1
Oh my.
1:32. And
I've been going to bed last night I just had trouble falling asleep, but I've been going to bed like right after my kids go to sleep. It's like 9:30. I just make sure
oh,
everything's like kind of shut down in the house and go crash. I'm like I'm done.
yeah, but see, you're working all day too. Being retired is a completely different activity level, which I'm just finding um, finding out and getting used to, because um, you know there's just having to get up. I mean, obviously, if we have appointments or anything, we're up and out early, but otherwise, um, it is a completely different lifestyle, and so it's not as regimented. So I have to make sure, okay, get that breakfast in, um, have lunch, get, it may not always be at the same time, but make sure that I get enough protein. That was my problem. We had talked
Yeah.
about that I was, eating salads and having my Honey Nut Cheerios for breakfast, and um, then not fitting in protein. Um, and so, you know, the the regimented life that you have if you work a 9 to 5 job, for instance, um, you're told when to go to lunch. You come home at 5:30. You prepare dinner right then, and and I know Mary Stanley has talked a lot about coming out of the service, where you're not only told when to eat, you're given what you're going to eat. And so that when
Right.
you're on your own and you have to realize, okay, nobody's telling me what to do, but I don't know what to do, you know?
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
like, well, now wait, I get to make my own choice. Like I don't even know where to start with making my own choice.
exactly.
And then if you try to go online and like Google it, there's so much out there. It just becomes overwhelming, right? Like you
Mhm.
don't need to immediately start like a biohacking journey just to eat well. Like you can keep it simple. Um yeah, there's so much out there. It's wild.
But there's also so much wrong information out there. So you have to be able to discern, you know, what your body needs, and what is just
Yep.
hype from, who's behind um, this website that you're looking at.
Yeah, and there's what's it called? It's called like media literacy, right? Being able to discern, are you being marketed to, or is this actual information, right? And this is
Mhm.
where like I look at who funds a research study,
Yes,
so I
yes.
kind of have an idea of why it's being done. And same kind of thing of like, okay, who's giving me this information? Is it a supplement company that's telling me how much I need antioxidants? Like, are they just trying to sell me this?
Mhm.
Versus it being a reputable source of just general health information.
So yeah,
Oh,
definitely. That's something I'm always kind of conscious of if I'm reading an article. Excuse me.
absolutely. Yeah. Figuring out where it's coming from, why they're putting it out, what's the point, right? So that you know, okay, is this just to sell me something? Is this truly to provide me with additional information? Um, because both are certainly out there and sometimes it's very hard to tell.
Mhm.
So we've only got a few minutes left. And I have a 1 o'clock meeting. So can we
I I'll let you go.
so
Definitely.
let's end a few minutes early so that I am gonna actually grab another cup of coffee
Okay,
because
well,
I've
thank you, Beth, the
stayed up.
information, and
Yeah.
congratulations on, having the seminar this morning and, being in demand. That excuse me. So we will meet again next Wednesday, noon to
Absolutely.
1 Eastern US time. And so if you want to listen in, and if you'd like to come in as a listener, and we do have, you can type in a question, much like Beth talked about at her webinar. Type in a question or even just say hello. So with that, thanks, Beth. I appreciate your help.
All
Appreciate all
right.
your
Have a
knowledge.
great day, Linda.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.